We all perform, whether you are saying hello to a friend or giving a talk at a 1-minute talk at your workplace, or a toast at a wedding, or actually
being on stage.
We tend to do that. We are on stage a fair amount, and we do a fair amount of public speaking, and I play the piano, which you're going to hear, and we're going to talk about lessons for how to perform that are applicable to regular, normal people, like this dog. We're going to start with acting. And rather than tell, we're going to show. Watch this.
So, what do you think?
It's beautiful. Is it new?
Have you seen it on this gorgeous body before?
You should wear it in the best of health. My God.
You ready for the best part? Guess how much it cost?
A coat like that? You must have paid $3,000.
Less. Much less.
What, $2,500? Don't tell me it was under $2,000.
$1,950.
I am fainting.
Is that a steal or is that a steal? There's only one thing that bothers me.
What?
Knowing it was someone else's. I mean, who knows who this person is? All I know is that she's short, terrifically slim, and probably didn't look half as good in it as I do.
So what are you worried about? You got a gorgeous coat at a great price.
Why would she give this coat up?
Who knows? Maybe she died.
Oh my God. I didn't even think. For all I know, she could have died in this coat. The poor thing could have been wearing this coat and got hit by a car. It's not marked anywhere, is it?
It's perfect. Not a scratch on it, except for this tire mark.
Very funny.
Okay. Have a seat, Barb. Okay, so what is the one thing you would like to emphasize to our audience as to what you did that represents good acting?
I have no idea if that was good acting or not, but I think you want to be the character that you're playing. You're not you. And so I am not quite that bouncy and chirpy and happy, but she was. That was the whole point of the scene.
I try to demonstrate that acting is reacting. As soon as I saw her come in, I reacted to what I saw, as though if I was really seeing that. And I was not spewing lines, even though these were scripted lines. I was trying to be this enthusiastic friend in amazement at this and in asking questions. Anything else that you want to talk about acting?
Well, I guess let me start with, I am not naturally someone who wants to act or perform. I did not do it growing up. I didn't take any drama classes. I wasn't in drama in high school or college until the very end of college when we were putting on skits. And we were fortunate enough to have a woman named Linda Selman, who was a student like we were at Queens College. She's today the, I think, director of the New York City Arts League. And she taught me one thing that she stressed all the time, every minute, and that was react. That you are not, no matter what you're doing on stage, you are never just standing there waiting for your opportunity to speak. You are there reacting to everything that's going on around you. And she would say that again and again and again every night, react, react, react.
And so that's what we did. It's a mistake to just stare at your acting partner. So you'll notice that sometimes in real life, we don't just stare at the person. So I looked at her, especially when it was important, and away when it was important. And of course, when I made the joke about the tire mark on the back, I was looking at the coat. So it is about being relaxed enough to be authentic. But one little point, I think we were both a bit larger than life. We tried to be like real people, but just one bit higher, one bit more. So the famous actor Spencer Tracy said, "Never let them catch you acting." So I tried to be a little larger than life without it looking like I was acting. Make sense?
Yep.
Let's turn to public speaking. Now, we've both done a lot of public speaking. If there was one thing you want people to remember about public speaking, what would it be?
Forget about the fact that you're too shy to do this, or you don't want to do this, or you don't like doing this. What you want to do is establish a rapport with the audience so that the audience is with you, and that will make you feel more comfortable. And one of the ways that I have always tried to do that is by arriving early and talking to some people. Usually if you're speaking, it's at some kind, well, frequently it's at some kind of a, like a luncheon or a dinner. And so you can talk to people in the buffet line, and you can talk about the weather.
But it could also be a meeting. It could be an office meeting where you're just showing up for a 10-minute usual staff meeting, and you're going to talk 1 minute. It's still good to come early, right?
It's always good to come early to have something in common with the other people, like the weather, or they didn't put out coffee, or whatever it is, so that you have somebody you can look at in the audience who's going to look at you in a friendly way because you've established that rapport. In an office meeting, it's a little different. You know those people all the time, but you do want to be prepared as much as you can with whatever points you want to make, and so you don't have to be long-winded about it.
I like the idea of finding something, even at a staff meeting, but certainly if you're talking to a group at a conference or whatever, of keeping your ears open for an anecdote, something that you can then weave in so it doesn't look like you've got a canned speech. So I like that. It enables you to take the temperature of the audience. What do they seem to care about? What are they feeling? And also that gets them to like you more. If they're chatting with you up front, they're going to like you more than if you just come out from behind the stage.
True. I'm always one for having a good closing joke. That's a nice way to leave. An opening one is good too, but it's got to be something that is relevant to what you're talking about. Just coming in with some random canned joke is not going to work real well.
Here I disagree. I don't believe in canned jokes. I believe in what comes up naturally in conversation. And by the way, when I speak to an audience, I'm as conversational as I was just talking to Barbara. But I will slow down a bit because I want to leave time for people to process. And rather than a joke, which again seems canned, I always, almost always, end with a certain story, which I won't bore you with now, but I end with a story that's very inspiring. But I also end with usually something like this. Is there one thing, just one thing that you want to do differently as a result of this talk? So that because we all forget what the heck we heard in a talk that we may have heard just yesterday. But if I can get them to come up with one takeaway that's personalized to them, that's what works.
For me, the most important thing is you do not write out your speech.
Correct.
Reading a speech does not work for anybody.
Or memorizing. Both are terrible.
And when we see famous people reading from their speeches on television, it's annoying, and we tend to tune out. So what I have always done is made on index cards. I like 5x7 index cards because I can print in large letters, but just bullet points of what the idea is and then riff from that. And that makes it very conversational, and it makes it very real because I'm not reading something.
People are afraid that if they do that, they're going to say and and they're going to forget something, and they're going to be not quite as logical. That is a tax, yes. It's a price, but it's worth it because you create more chemistry. It's more exciting to see somebody struggle with what to say. The manufactured perfection that occurs, for example, in a TED Talk, where it's all perfectly orchestrated, is a mistake. It ends up being not any better than an email of the script. The purpose of a live performance or the live talk is chemistry, to motivate. And you reach all of that when you're using PowerPoint or when you're memorizing a script, let alone reading.
Well, I've seen a lot of TED Talks that were really very good, so I'm going to give them a pass because I think they work very well. But yes, in general, you don't You don't want to depend on that. And nobody minds if you say
Not at
because
all.
that's life. That's what we do. But I want to talk to the people who feel that they're too shy to do something
good.
like that. Because I still am very shy. And people laugh at me when I say that. But I grew up not coming from a household where there was a lot of people coming over. We didn't have company. My mother was very shy. And so I didn't know how to get up and talk in front of everybody. And I was frankly terrified. And I still am. Just when you do it long enough and nobody's thrown rocks at you, you figure it must be okay. So if you're asked to say something, or even if it's just at a meeting and you have something that's important to say, brace yourself and just do it. Don't go on too long like I'm doing now, but just make your point and then let's see what happens.
Yes, less is more. I've seen too many like fundraisers or whatever. You give somebody a microphone and they just keep talking. And less is more. I use the traffic light rule in almost every situation, especially if I'm just speaking briefly in a meeting. During your first 30 seconds of an utterance, your light is green. They're listening, they're not thinking you're a blowhard. During the second 30 seconds, your light is yellow. They're beginning to think, when will this person shut up already? At the 60-second mark, you better shut up unless you're telling a particularly fascinating story. And with that, I will shut up.
Yeah. Also, many of us talk really quickly. And if you're talking to a group and you talk really quickly, they're going to miss a lot of what you're saying. So you're going to slow down when you are, quote, performing because you have an audience to ensure that people have time to process the words before you go on to the next point. Sometimes we need to think about it for a minute or two.
Let's move on to the next point, which is music. So I play the piano. And I play by ear. And I'm not expecting you to be able to play by ear the way I do, but I want to show you, demonstrate what I think is useful in any kind of performing, whether you're a singer or you're an instrumentalist or whatever. I want to tell you a story. I want to show you something first. Look at my hands. You can see I cannot straighten this finger, nor this finger, nor this finger. This is not to get sympathy. I was a normal 10-fingered pianist my whole life, and then about 10 years ago, I developed this hand condition. It doesn't hurt at all, but it's just this rare condition. And so the Napa Valley Opera House had fallen into disrepair, but then the Mondavi family donated $50 million to renovate it to its former glory. And they had a big gala announcing its reopening. And they knew I played the piano, and they asked me to play, but they didn't know that I had developed this hand condition. So I was forced to a decision. Am I going to play with 7, 8 fingers, or am I going to turn them down? Well, I did a little research, and I found that in the Napa Valley Opera House, at some point way back when, at the turn of the century, Scott Joplin, the famous ragtime pianist, had played there. So I listened to him on piano rolls. They didn't have recordings back then. And I said, you know what? I think I can play it better than him. And so I ended up saying yes and playing in his honor Maple Leaf Rag. But to make it theatrical, to make it more exciting, I'm going to demonstrate. Let me show you what I did. I am going to channel Scott Joplin and see if I can bring right back to here to the Napa Valley Opera House, the spirit of him. Now, of course, I will probably have to start by playing very slowly, but just maybe I'll be able to speed up. Let's see what happens.
was there himself.
Yes. So, what, if anything, Barbara, did you notice about the way I played that might be instructive to anyone who's performing?
Start slow and speed up later.
Variation is crucial, and surprise, and a bit of theatricality. And I varied not just speed, but I varied my volume. I create surprise, but I'm always, and this is, and again, this can, maybe it's true whether you're reading music or not, and I can't read music at all. This is all by ear. I am listening to every note, and I'm saying, what would the next note sound best as? It's almost like a Buddhist idea. I am completely in the moment. I am listening. I can play with my eyes closed. I am listening in the moment. And so I think that's critical. What?
But honestly, for those of us who don't play the piano or a musical instrument, I can't even imagine.
Even if you're singing.
What that's like.
Even if you're telling a joke. Thinking about, should I go faster? Should I go slower? Louder? One of the hidden gold mines is pause. Waiting a moment. You want me to play one more thing? Should I play one more thing?
Sure.
What do you really think?
If you feel like it, what do you want to play?
Yeah, I thought about this in advance. I thought you might enjoy. One of my favorite shows is Les Miserables, and I think of a way of demonstrating surprise, variation in pace and volume and pausing and everything. I'm going to play the medley. I love overtures. I think overtures are the most underrated of the musical genres. So this is my version of an overture to Les Miserables.
Bravo.
Okay, so again, a lot of variation, surprises. Even if you're stuck and you're chained to the sheet music, you can think variation, think surprises, and that Buddhist concept of being in the moment. I was not thinking ahead. I was not looking at Barbara. I was not thinking about cameras. All I was thinking about, what would make the next note or the next chord sound good. All right, let's move into summary mode. What do you want to say?
One last thing.
Please.
This is a very casual world we live in today. Like many people who are watching this, I grew up in a time when women only wore skirts and dresses, and school was the place that you dressed up to go to. When you're giving a talk, particularly, you want to be very careful about what you're wearing. This is kind of Mark Zuckerberg attire here.
That's me.
And that's fine if you're Mark Zuckerberg and you have many billions of dollars. But for most of us, you want to be respectful of your audience and dress up a little bit to show that you felt this was an important thing. You didn't just roll out of bed and show up to give your talk.
I tend to agree with that. My rule of thumb is wear one notch above what the average person in the audience would wear. Most people these days don't wear suits anymore, or even sport jackets. So if they're going to be in short sleeve shirts like this, wear a collared shirt. One notch above. You agree with that?
Or two notches above. I think if you're the speaker, you can dress up as a way of showing the audience.
You're just a clothes horse.
Important.
You want an excuse to wear fancy clothes.
Well, these are not fancy
No,
clothes,
they're not.
But they're clothing that, to me, is respectful. But I'm very old-fashioned.
This is not respectful?
No, that's not.
This is not. What's not respectful about this?
Oh, don't get me started.
Okay, all right. Summarize. What if there is one or two things about performance in general you want people to remember from watching this show? What do you want them to remember?
Arrive early, establish rapport with your audience, have some bullet points on cards that you can talk about. I'm still going to go with a closing joke that's related to what you're talking about, if you have a good one. And that's all I can think of at the moment. So there is no and right now.
Okay. The thing I most want you to remember is what Barbara said. She came from a shy family, and she grew to love doing this. And so even if it is not naturally you, practice, whether it be into your phone, in front of a mirror, in front of someone you trust, and start small. I remember Barbara's first talk she ever gave.
You do?
You told
I don't.
Me, yeah. You told me it was like 3 or 4 people and you were extraordinarily nervous. I remember my first talk, I was a school psychologist in Tiburon, and my first talk was simply giving the school board the results of the test scores. I almost fainted. And yet I've grown to love performing. So in terms of areas for growth, think about some kind of a simple way you can put your toe in the water and talk or play or whatever your best thing is, and maybe on the topic that you like to talk about the most.
Yeah, don't automatically, if you're shy, just say no if somebody asks you to do something like that. Power through it. You'll be glad you did.
Well, next month when we do this, or next show, we're going to power through retirement. Barbara has failed retirement. She is,
happily and deliberately.
Right. She has just retired as the Napa County longest running county superintendent in the state of California, but she's failed it. She's doing what I'm calling a glide path. She's still very active, but she's doing the things she finds most fun. She's going to talk a little bit about how to make your either upcoming or current retirement more interesting, and I might have a few things to say too. Your last word.
Retirement is a mixed bag, and it can be very tough. So you do want to prepare for it so you don't end up feeling lost and alone and wondering why you did it.
Anyway, we thank you for joining us. I'm Barbara Nemko. And
no,
this
you're
is
not Barbara Nemko. I'm Barbara Nemko.
I thought I did so well until this point. Oh my God, I'm Marty Nemko. I was trying to be so other-directed, I was thinking of you. I'm Marty Nemko, trailing spouse, and this is
Barbara Nemko,
who always corrects me.
Thank you for watching.